Informative notice. Sources: Al Jazeera, The Guardian, NPR, Wikipedia 2025 to 2026 Iranian protests, House of Commons Library UK, Britannica Encyclopedia, Iran International reports from Human Rights Activist News Agency, HRANA, Abdurrahman Burman Center for Human Rights Time Period covered December 28, 2025, January 17, 2026. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash the like icon. This story needs to be heard. The streets of Tehran are burning tonight, but the smoke rising from the capital isn't just from fires. It's from something far more dangerous. A regime struggling to survive, a people desperate for freedom, and two nations accused of pulling the strings. Today, Iran's supreme leader made a chilling accusation, one that could change everything in the Middle East. December 28, 2025. That's when it started, not with gunfire, not with speeches, but with shop owners in Tehran's ancient bazaar pulling down their shutters. The Iranian rial had collapsed, lost half its value in a single year. Families couldn't afford rice, couldn't afford meat, couldn't afford to live. Within hours, the protests spread, not to one city, not to 10, to all 31 provinces of Iran. Even in cities that had always supported the government. Even in neighborhoods where the supreme leader's portrait hangs in every window. But this wasn't just about bread and economics anymore. Make sure you stay until the end. Drop a like if you want more coverage like this. The chants echoed through the darkness. Death to the dictator. They were talking about Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the 86-year-old man who has ruled Iran with absolute power for decades. Students at Shahid Beheshti University released a statement. They said this criminal system has taken their future hostage for 47 years. The government's response? $7 a month. That's what they offered families to buy rice, meat, and pasta. $7. In a country where inflation has destroyed everything. President Masoud Pezeshkian promised to meet with protesters, recognized their constitutional right to peaceful protest. But he doesn't control the security forces. He never did. Then the internet went dark, phone lines cut. Iran disappeared from the digital world. What happened next would be documented only through satellite connections, through Starlink transmitters smuggled into the country, through grainy videos that somehow escaped the blackout. The death toll began to rise. According to the Human Rights Activist News Agency, at least 116 people have been killed. 48 protesters, 14 security forces personnel, but some reports suggest the real number is far higher. Some say 2,000. Others claim 20,000. What really happened during those dark days when the internet was down, when Iran sealed itself off from the world? Hit that subscribe button if you're following this story. We need to spread the truth. Security forces use shotguns, rifles with live ammunition, even heavy DSHK machine guns. A doctor in Tehran reported they were shooting to kill. The Abdurrahman Burman Center for Human Rights documented something even more disturbing. When security forces used less lethal weapons, they deliberately aimed at heads, eyes, genitals, and vital organs. To terrorize, to mutilate, to send a message. On January 6th, security forces stormed the Imam Khomeini Hospital in Ilam. They beat medical staff, fired tear gas into wards where injured protesters lay in beds. The U.S. State Department called it a crime against humanity. Hospitals are not battlefields. Over 2,600 people have been arrested. Chief Justice Gholam Hossein Mohseni ordered prosecutors to show no leniency. He said if we want to do something, we have to do it quickly. Fast trials, fast executions, maximum penalties, but that's when the accusations started flying. On January 9th, Supreme Leader Khamenei gave a televised address. He said protesters were vandalizing their own country just to please the President of the United States. He called them mercenaries for foreigners, accused them of acting on behalf of President Donald Trump. Then today, January 17th, Khamenei went further. He claimed that actors linked to the United States and Israel killed several thousands during the protests. He called Trump a criminal. Said the latest sedition was different because the U.S. president personally became involved. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi echoed the accusation. He stated that Americans and Israelis are directly intervening in the protests, trying to transform peaceful demonstrations into divisive and violent ones. If you're still watching, drop a comment. What do you think is really happening in Iran? But here's where the story gets even more complex. President Trump had indeed made statements. On January 2nd, he posted on social media, "If Iran shots and violently kills peaceful protesters, the United States will come to their rescue. We're locked and loaded and ready to go." Days later, on January 13th, Trump wrote, "Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions, save the names of the killers and abusers. They will pay a big price. I have canceled all meetings with Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters. STOPS. Help is on its way." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also voiced support. He told ministers it's quite possible the Iranian people are taking their fate into their own hands. These weren't subtle diplomatic statements. These were direct interventions in Iran's internal affairs, something the Iranian government immediately seized upon. Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf issued a stark warning. He said U.S. military bases and Israel would be legitimate targets if America strikes. In Parliament, lawmakers rushed to the dais shouting, "Death to America." The context makes this even more explosive. Just 7 months earlier, in June 2025, Israel and the United States launched a 12-day war against Iran. They bombed Iranian nuclear facilities in Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz. They destroyed air defense systems. They killed senior military commanders. They devastated Iran's missile production capabilities. Iran struck back at a U.S. military base in Qatar. But the damage was done. The Islamic Republic was weakened militarily, weakened economically, weakened politically. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This story is far from over. Then in Syria, Iran's ally Bashar al-Assad fell. The regime that Iran had supported for decades collapsed. Iran's regional influence, built over years of investment in Hamas, Hezbollah, and Syrian forces, was crumbling. And now, with the Iranian economy in freefall, with the rial worth almost nothing, with electricity, blackouts, and water shortages plaguing cities, the Iranian people finally reached their breaking point. The question everyone is asking, is this really a spontaneous uprising driven by economic desperation? Or is there foreign involvement as Iran's supreme leader claims? The evidence is murky. Trump's statements certainly gave protesters hope. Exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi called for demonstrations on January 8th and 9th. His supporters waved the lion and sun flag, the symbol of the monarchy overthrown in 1979. On January 9th, the platform X even changed Iran's flag emoji from the Islamic Republic flag to the lion and sun design. But calling for protests isn't the same as orchestrating them. And the economic grievances driving people into the streets are very real. The human rights activist news agency reported that the boundary between trade-related demands and political demands has blurred. The protests have evolved from economic complaints into calls for fundamental change. What happens next could reshape the entire Middle East. Iran's government has deployed security forces across every major city. Residents describe it as a de facto curfew. Checkpoints everywhere. Patrols in every neighborhood. Tehran is subdued and tense. People avoid unnecessary travel. Shops remain closed. The streets are eerily quiet. But the protests haven't completely stopped. Videos still emerge showing demonstrators waving lit mobile phones, banging metal, setting off fireworks, chanting against the regime. Make sure to comment below. Are we witnessing the beginning of the end for Iran's Islamic Republic? The supreme leader faces an impossible situation. At 86 years old, after surviving the June war, after watching his regional allies collapse, after seeing his economy destroyed, he now confronts his own people demanding change. He can crack down harder, execute more protesters, deploy more security forces. But that risks escalating the violence and potentially triggering the foreign intervention he fears. Or he can negotiate, listen to grievances, make concessions. But that could be seen as weakness, could embolden the opposition, could lead to demands for even greater change. Meanwhile, Trump has not ruled out military strikes. Netanyahu is watching closely. The prospect of another attack looms over Tehran like a storm cloud. The Iranian people are caught in the middle, between a government that views them with suspicion, between foreign powers that claim to support them but have their own agendas, between hope for freedom and fear of even more bloodshed. And Supreme Leader Khamenei's accusation that the U.S. and Israel are behind the deaths, it serves a purpose. It allows the regime to frame this not as a legitimate uprising, but as a foreign conspiracy, to justify the crackdown, to rally nationalistic sentiment, to paint anyone calling for change as a traitor working for Iran's enemies. But the families mourning their dead know the truth. Security forces killed their sons and daughters. Not American agents, not Israeli operatives. Iranian soldiers and police, following orders from Iranian commanders who answer to the Supreme Leader himself. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. Share this video. The world needs to know what's happening. The next few weeks will be critical. Will the protests reignite when the internet restrictions ease? Will Trump make good on his threats? Will Israel strike again? Will the Iranian government continue its brutal crackdown? Or will something else happen? Something no one expected? One thing is certain. The Islamic Republic of Iran is facing the most serious challenge to its survival since the revolution of 1979. The combination of economic collapse, military defeat, regional isolation, and domestic unrest has created a perfect storm, and in the eye of that storm sits an 86-year-old man, clinging to power, blaming foreign enemies, ordering his security forces to crush dissent. While his country burns, the people of Iran are watching. The world is watching. History is watching. What comes next will determine not just Iran's future, but the future of the entire Middle East. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment with your thoughts. This is a developing story, and we'll keep bringing you the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how complex, because the truth matters, especially when lives hang in the balance.